Okay. Yeah, so we're going to continue from where we stopped last class. In our last class on NumPy, which is the first class, we look at introduction to NumPy, and we talk about why NumPy is important for working with arrays. And we say that the object that NumPy creates is ND array. And then we look at the various ways we can create arrays with NumPy from lists, and we can also use some built-in functions with NumPy, arrange and linspace to create NumPy arrays. And we talk about array dimensions. We talk about the scalar value or arrays of 0 dimension. We talk about one-dimensional array, two-dimensional arrays, and we can have as many dimensions as the operation demands. We also talk about how we can find the shape of our arrays and also reshape the arrays. How we can convert from one dimension to another dimension. That's reshaping. So we stopped here where we talk about I think we talk about how we can flatten our arrays, right? By using -1. Okay, so we'll continue from here and we'll talk about how to index, array indexing. How do we index our arrays? How do we take, so indexing basically is, getting values from arrays. We talk about list indexing. Remember we say that indexing start from 0, Python generally counting from 0. It's similar. We can do similar thing with arrays. Indexing in array is also similar. For instance, let me run all this, so that I have the variables. Okay, so if I print my one-dimensional array, I have this. If I want to get the second element in this array, how do I index that? What would that be?
So it's a one-dimensional, but it's a second element, so it'd be, yeah, it'd be one,
Yeah,
just like that.
exactly,
Yeah.
this one. So that gives me 2,
Mhm.
right? Let me point the array so we see that that is what we should get. So that gives 2, which is the second element. Yeah, to index a two-dimensional array is similar to like indexing a list of lists. So we have a list in a list. So let's look at our array D2. So we have this, which is a list of 3 lists, right? So we have 2D arrays here. If I want to get let's say I want to get the third element in the third element in the second column. I mean second rows. I want
Row.
to get the second element, get the third value, third element of the second row. So this one we can do when we are doing we can do index, we can next our indexing. We can say array D2, why the first we need to take the second row, right? The second row is going to be what will be index position.
1 would be the second row, I assume.
Exactly, 1. Then if we do that, you can see it gives us the second. This is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean,
Mhm.
it's difficult to know because we have the same
Yeah,
values.
right, right.
Yeah. Okay, let me do
But
something.
but I get it though. I
You
do.
get
I
it? Okay,
understand.
okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes sense. Then if we want to get the third element, that will be
So
2, right?
2. Yeah, so it's 2.
So we have 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Mhm.
So this is how we do that. We
Okay.
can also, like, instead of doing nexting of this indexing, we can also just do a kind of row comma column, right? We just say I want the second row comma the column. I mean 2. It's going to give us the same thing.
I
Did
was
you get
wondering
that?
about that, if you have to separate it by hard brackets or square
No, you
brackets or
don't have
not.
to. You can use
Okay,
that
okay,
comma. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so or we next the indexing. So nexting of indexing is like we do 1. Yeah, this is nexting of indexing. The one we saw earlier. That is nexting of indexing. You get the same. Okay. So
Mhm.
similar to
Mhm.
list, we can slice NumPy arrays. We can slice our arrays. Let's print our array.
So
We
why is it called nesting the index? What is the nest? I mean, I see it, but why is it nested?
I mean, I actually, I, it's a word that I chose.
Okay,
It's a word that I chose myself, so it might not be um the right words, but what it means is that,
gotcha.
you
Okay.
know, you write the first, the outer in dimension, and
Uh-huh.
then you go in and then pick the ones that you
The
want.
inner.
So if you
Okay.
have 3 dimension, that means you'll be having like indexing, indexing, and indexing. So that's why I feel like, oh, you are nexting the indexing.
Uh-huh.
Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we can slice our arrays to, let's say we want to, you know, um, we want to select the first 3 values from the array. How can we do that?
It's like
How
the
do
first 3 values from the array.
Mhm.
So array D2, and then we would say first 3 values. It's like the first 3 values from any array or just from the whole array.
Yeah, from this one dimension
Oh,
array. Yeah,
we're at
from this.
D1 now.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
D1.
D1 is just 1 through 5.
Yeah, 1 to 5. Yeah.
Okay, and so then we would go hard brackets and then semicolon
Mm-hmm.
comma 4.
Comma 4.
Is that right? Or
Do you say
something like that?
semicolon?
Or colon comma
Mm-hmm.
4, is that right? Yeah.
So the thing is that,
Or no, 3.
so when you say, okay, 3, I think we're going to get an error
Okay.
out of, yeah, index error. We get an index error because this is a one-dimensional array.
Uh-huh.
We what we write here is like indexing as if it is 2 dimensions. So remember, when we want to index like a two-dimensional array, we
Mm-hmm.
put the rows and the column, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rows, comma, column.
Oh, so we just can't include a comma.
Yeah, we just don't need the comma. We just need to put, right? So the slicing is saying that from the beginning to the end, or from the
Mm-hmm.
starting to the end. So what is
Mm-hmm.
here is from 0. So we don't need to put 0, right? and
Right.
here is 3. So we have to put 3 because it will not include the third. So if we
Right.
do that, that should give us what we want. Yeah. So we have
Right.
1,
Okay.
2, 3. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does. It does. The comma doesn't belong there. Okay.
Yeah. So you will see why. Let's do for the comma will be so useful if you want to do a 2-dimensional array indexing.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
have this 2-dimensional array. We will now want to index. We want to get these values, the first 3 values of the second column. The first, let's say, get the first 4 elements of the second row. Okay, now how do we do that? You know, array D2. We know that now we want row and column values, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you think we can do that?
With
We
the
want to
first.
actually we want to slice, but the um element
Sure.
that we want to slice is in the second
So we
row.
simply put in this case the second row, so it's just going to be
Mm-hmm.
comma, one
Mm-hmm.
comma, and then colon um,
Mm-hmm.
4.
That is correct. Exactly. You see,
Great,
we have
great.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it does. Yes, that
So
makes
this is
sense.
how we can say, okay, we want to get, let me copy this again. Let's get the first 4 elements of the last 2 rows. How can we
Ah,
do that?
um, minus 2 rows. Oh, okay, so we're gonna have to put 0, 1, 2, so it's going to be 1 colon
Okay,
comma colon 4. Is that right?
1 colon.
Comma colon 4.
That is right.
Oh, is it
So
really?
yeah,
Oh,
it is right. So when you say 1, so if you say I want the this 1 colon to the end is taking the second row to the end row,
mm-hmm,
so which is right. So then we now move to the colon. We say we want from the first 4 elements. This is right. So you see what we have now. We
mm-hmm,
have,
mm-hmm.
you know, 2 something actually. So that is right. We can also do -2 and also do
Oh,
negative
okay.
indexing, right? -1, -2. So this will give us the same thing too.
Oh, the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is it's just understanding how the indexing works. So what you
Uh-huh.
should know is that to slice, we use colon to indicate the beginning and the end of slice,
Mm-hmm.
but we use comma to indicate um, you know, the dimension specification, right? If we want to do 2-dimensional indexing, we use comma to say, okay, this is the outermost dimension, and the next one is the dimension that follows, and all that. If we have 3-dimensional arrays too, the same, that means we will need two commas, right? For dimension 3, dimension 2, and dimension 1. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. We would use 3 commas?
Yeah,
Wait.
what I'm saying is that let me create an arrays. np dot arrange. Let's say I want 15, and then This will give me 15. Now let me reshape this. Reshape to 3 by 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I have um
Mm-hmm.
3 by 5. Now let's say that I want to get oh, this is still like a two-dimensional array. Let me find the dot nd. It's still a two-dimensional array. So let's say 3 by 5. Let's say 3 by, I'm looking at how I can 3 by 3 by 2. Let me change this into 18. 3, does this make sense? 3 minus 1. Okay, now this is a three-dimensional array. And then, okay, so this is a three-dimensional array. Now, if I want to like index this three-dimensional array, I'll have to do, let me put this array D3. Now, if I want to index, let's say that I want to get this, the elements, I'm going to the third array D3. I want to go to the third rows or the element in the last position of the third dimension. So what I will do is, I know that this is the first dimension, this is the second dimension, this out, and this is the third. So I'll just put 2, comma, let's say I want to get this one, that would be, so this is the third dimension, that one would be 1, and let me just get this. So you see, I get 14. So you see what I mean? What I did was that
Oh, interesting.
this
So
is,
2 and then
this 2
1
is
and then
like,
0.
okay,
Oh, sure,
yeah.
sure. It's indexing. It's referencing the overall index of it. Okay.
Does that make sense? So this is what I mean. Like now we have 3 dimensions. We need to start using, we use 2 commas. So this is
Mm-hmm.
saying that look at the outermost dimension,
Mm-hmm.
pick the element in the third position. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the first position, second position, and the third position. So it selected this. And then I said, now for the element that you selected, go and pick the element in the second position, right? So it go here and pick this. This is the second position. And then it gets to this one also. I said, okay, now for this array that you have, give me the first value. Then it goes in and pick 14. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Now, when you reshaped the NP range
Mm-hmm.
at 18, and then you reshaped the 3, and then I understand like the 3, there's 3 rows and they're grouped in, and there's 3 of those. And then the -1, I don't understand exactly.
So we talked about this in the last class,
Right,
and
right.
yeah, I'm going to go.
I remember that,
We
but
see um we can reshape with one unknown dimension.
mhm,
That means if I want to reshape to a three-dimensional arrays and I want my first dimension to be 2, and I want the second dimension to be, or the last dimension to be 3. All right. I can say that
mhm.
give me 2, the the dimension that follows this, I don't know the number
Oh,
of
right.
values that will be there.
That's
So
right.
-1, compute it yourself, then
That's
give me the
right.
last one to be 3. So that's the same thing that I did. Like I said, okay, I have Where is that?
Right there, down a little.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
have arrays of 18 values or
Mhm.
18 elements. Give me a three-dimensional array. The outermost dimension has three values. The one that follows has three values. I don't know how many value you are going to put the last. Whatever value you want, compute it yourself.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
that's what this is saying.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
That's handy.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, this is we're talking about NumPy data types. Remember when we were looking at the traditional data types in Python, we see some data types, integer, string, float, and all that, Boolean. For NumPy, we have some other data types in addition to the ones we have in Python. I mean, yeah, in the traditional Python data. Um, but NumPy refer to the data types with one character. So integer is I, Boolean is B, and all that. So the thing is that when we create a NumPy array, remember, we can create a NumPy array
Mm-hmm.
using NP array and then put the list that we want to create, right? This is going to
Mm-hmm.
give us an array of this.
Mm-hmm.
We can, so by default, we did not specify the data types. We just
Mm-hmm.
put the array in this syntax. But we can also specify that the data type for this array should be, you can say hi. Well, instead of hi, I will say let it be objects.
Object. Okay.
Yeah, you see, so now it's as they, do you see the difference when we specify objects? It added the attribute of the data type into the object that we created. If we change this one to hi, you see, if we did not specify any data type, yeah, it will just like, okay, I just want to create arrays. It will just create an array without, the attribute of the data types. But if we put the data types, it's going to give us this becomes like very useful when you start doing operations with you see how all these things, why all these things are important when we start using um scikit-learn. Hopefully maybe we'll get to machine learning, I mean to deep learning, and we start using PyTorch. You will see
PyTorch. Okay.
why it's important to like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
specify the data types of your arrays and all that.
And
Does
it's
that make
it's
sense?
not it's nice. It's so easy to specify data types. I guess you can really just switch what the data type is much
Yeah, you
more
can.
easily than
Yeah.
I imagined. Okay.
Okay. So I think the other thing is that if we have like um like for instance here we created an array. Let's call this one, it's a one-dimensional array D1S, and then the data type is objects. We can change the data type of this array D1S using .asType method. So we put as type I.
Hmm.
So we just say we want to, it's just like the type that we use to like write when we want to change the type of an object. So you can see it changed the type of this
Mm-hmm.
array to
Mm-hmm.
integer. So these are two um, ways to like um, work with data types in number arrays. There are other ways too, anyways.
That
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
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 I guess the last
Interesting.
thing I want to talk about for today's class is how we can iterate over the um in the arrays. One thing that you'll be keen to realize is that actually, and NumPy arrays are almost the same as lists actually, right? And in the way we index, in the way we like manipulate them and all that, and also in the way we iterate over the values. So we can use for loop to get the values in arrays, just as we do with list. The number of for loops that we're going to have will depend on the dimension of the arrays. Let's say that let's see how our one dimensional array is. Let's look at it. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. If we want to print the values, we want to print each values of this array. Well, how do you think we can use a for loop to iterate over the
For
values?
I in ARR
Yeah,
D1.
D1.
And then return. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
colon
we just point high. I just point high.
print I. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, so we have 1,
Okay,
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
okay, okay.
Now, what about a two-dimensional array? Let's print array D2. How can we iterate over this?
Well, I would say for I in ARR underscore D2 colon
In, yeah,
um
underscore D2 column. Okay.
I mean it's probably simple. Like, would it just be print I again, or is it
Okay, if
print
we print I, let's
I?
see what we're going to have. So if we print I, what we have is we have because this is a two-dimensional array, right? We have just the values in the next dimension. Does that make sense? We have a two-dimensional array. Let me print let me print this. So you can see that this is the two-dimensional array. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as the first element of the outer dimension. Then we have another array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as the second element of the outer dimension, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when we iterate over this two-dimensional array, what it does is that it goes in and just return this element, each of these elements, right? That's what it does. The reason we are able to iterate easily over this is because we have a one-dimensional array. It is not like a list of lists. It is just one list of values, right? So we have 1, 2, 3. But here we have lists that are nested inside a list. So when we iterate over them, it's going to give us the list inside it. So that means that to get the scalar values of the array, each individual values, we have to do 2 for loops. We have to do 2 for loops. So we say for I in AR underscore D2, this I will be each of these lists. Then we're not going to say for J in I. Now we're going to print
Oh, interesting.
J. Yep.
Huh. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now
Okay.
it now starts giving us the values. Does that make
That's
sense?
cool. Well, I mean, it does make sense, but of course that's a little tricky, but yeah,
It
it
is.
does make sense because you've got to go one layer deeper, and so you have to go in your syntax, you have to go one layer more,
Exactly.
and then and then iterate through what's inside of I.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
that's a really neat trick. I like that.
Now, imagine how confusing this is going to be if we have like three-dimensional array, we're going to have like for I, for j, for
Yeah.
instance, we have array D3
Hmm.
to, iterate over the element here, we need three for loops, three,
Yeah.
right? But this is very difficult. So I remember Python, simplicity is better than complexity, right? So Numpy provides a function to iterate over the values of an array, no matter the dimension. So all we just need to do is that we just need to do, let's say we want to iterate over this three-dimensional array. We say array D3. So let me start writing like this, it will confuse you. NP dot ND either. Then
Mm.
we'll put the array inside array D3. Now, if we run this, it's going to return an object called ether object. So this is an ether object. We can now iterate over this. Say that for I in this, print I. So this what this does is that it takes care of all the deeper arrays for us and make it easy for us to just use one for loop to get the values in the arrays, no matter the dimension, even if it is 4 dimension or 5 or something, we can use ND iter to return the attributes and then iterate over it. Does that make sense?
It does. Sorry, I just had to text my son, but it
Okay.
does make sense. It
Okay.
does. And so the ND iter will
Mm-hmm.
then, it's just a function from Numpy
Mm-hmm.
that will then, take care of all the iterables
Mm-hmm.
in
Exactly.
the, okay, that makes sense. I
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah, this is very cool. It saves us the stress of using 4 and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
that would save a lot of time.
Yeah, so this is really right in time. So we are done for today's class.
That's great.
For Friday class, I think we'll be rounding up NumPy. We'll look at some other stuff we can do with NumPy, and then starting from next week, we'll look into pandas.
Sweet. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
Okay.
What time do you want me to come pick you up tomorrow?
Um, can I? Like if you send the address to me, I can drive, so you don't need to worry about.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. That way you can bail if you want.
Yeah. That makes sense. So give me the address,
Yeah.
I'll drive.
Okay, sounds great.
Mhm.
And
See you tomorrow.
yeah, sounds good. Have a good night.
I get